Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
His book is getting lots of attention and lots of great reviews. I'm looking at it right now, and some of the reviews, I mean, just randomly, just clicking here, somebody just delivered a review that says, author Marcelo Brazzi is an interesting man. One look at the bucket list on his website will tell you this. What are we talking about? The book is called The Liberal Record. The Liberal Record, How Liberals Change the World. And he's with us today, the author of the book, Marcelo Brazzi. Welcome back, Marcelo. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm good. Congratulations on all the positive feedback on your book.
Yeah, it's been good, and we can talk about it and some other issues. But before we get going, I just like to make one or two real quick comments.
Sure.
First one is my personal background, very in 2 words or less. I've got a graduate degree, and I was a spacecraft engineer working on the Apollo program, Apollo spacecraft for NASA. I've traveled the world. I've gone up Mount Everest, Mount Kilimanjaro, and a whole bunch of other things. I'm not going to go into all that stuff. But just for some general background. Now, one comment about the book itself in general. If people hear the title, The Liberal Record, and they immediately think, oh, it's all that bunch of low right-wing, left-wing baloney, and it's all the same stuff we hear every day on the radio, same stuff we hear on TV, and they think it's all the same routine stuff. And I want to point out, it bothers me a lot that virtually everything in that book is things that the average person is not even aware of. Almost like maybe 90% of it is stuff that they have never thought about, never given, are unaware of. And let me just give you one real quick example, which I think is kind of fascinating. There's a guy named Christopher Columbus, and we all say, well, okay, he discovered America. But nobody understands what was involved. And here's the thing. The ocean currents go from Europe to America. That's pretty easy. I mean, you could throw a cork out in the water and it would end up in America over there. But the problem is, how the heck do you get back? And this is never talked about in history class or anything. But people don't understand it. Well, Columbus was an incredible navigator, and he knew stuff that nobody else knew. Anyway, the way you get back to Europe from America is you first sail north. You go north up to the upper latitudes, and from there, the cycle of the ocean cycles will take you right back to Europe. So anyway, that's a big secret that I think most people are not aware of. It's in my book, but that's just one example of all the kind of stuff that's in the book that people are just not aware of, So anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, and this stuff that we're talking about, much of it is factual. The charts, it's not your opinion. You're pulling this data from various sources, some of them government sources as well. So it's been verified. Basically, it's a book of facts, and you're putting it all together and putting it before us, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it's my engineering background or just general logic and thinking. I want everything that I believe or understand. I want to know about it. I want to understand it, And so I did a lot of digging into historical data, financial data, political data, all that stuff, and so yeah, it's heavy with facts.
So one thing we've in these past podcasts, we've never delved into Donald Trump, and it's something just never came up, or we just put it to the side. How do you feel about talking about him, his connection to liberals and everything else?
Yeah, I know we've kind of avoided that because it's a little bit, I don't know, sensitive or hot topic, whatever it is. I don't know. But I think there is a basic question that we need to address. And the basic question is, Trump has been in all kinds of trouble. I mean, he's being sued right, left and right. He's been impeached and all that stuff. And that's just some stuff. But the question comes up, with all the stuff that's been going on, why does he have so much support? He has a lot of support. People just swear by him. They're really very enthused and committed to him. And I scratch my head and say, "Wow, why is that?" I'll give you the answer first, and then I'll go back and dig into the background behind what the answer is. The answer is that a lot of these people, I've talked to them, I have emails with them, and all this stuff. So I've run this past them, and so I've done some research on it. But the bottom line is there's a lot of people have different reasons. It's not all just one reason. But one of the biggest reasons is that they are not so much supportive of Trump as they have this built up animosity to Democrats. The right-wing media, and I'm going to go into some of this, and you won't believe this, but the right-wing media has built an incredible, over many years, incredible, intense fear and hatred of Democrats, stuff that doesn't make any sense at all. So anyway, the people, the Trump people, they believe that Trump is the only guy that's going to save them from all this stuff. That we can talk about some more about that. But they think he is the only guy that's going to save them from all these horrible, evil, satanic Democrats that are out to destroy the world. So anyway, that's the bottom line. But if I'd like to go back and kind of cover up how we got here. How we ended up getting here. Most people know that back, like when I was younger, we didn't have this animosity between parties. I mean, there was disagreements, but they'd compromise and cooperate and they'd get stuff done. And, but there was nothing big. They still cooperated, they would play golf together. There was a lot of reports of, the president and all the other party, whatever, and they go out and play golf together. And, they wouldn't think of that today. Okay. So let me go back through a little bit of history. Back around 1949, they wanted to avoid the thing that happened in Germany with the political stuff. So they passed a law around 1949 called the Fairness in Broadcasting Law. And all that was that if you came out and attacked somebody, with all kinds of stuff, the other side had equal time. So it was not banning, it was not saying you can't say something. It was not, you still had freedom of speech, but the other side had to have equal time to rebut whatever you're saying. And there's a famous case of Governor, what's his name, from Wisconsin, McCarthy. And that was a whole case. You should read about that. I'm not going to go into all that again, but he tried to call everybody in America communist, and eventually he was booted out of Congress. That's a short story. But anyway, so all from the day one until, constantly the Republicans hated this thing. They fought it every day. They tried to repeal it. And then finally, in 1987, Reagan was president, and they managed to get the Fairness in Media law repealed. And guess what? The day after they repealed that, Rush Limbaugh plugged in his microphone. Fox News is a little bit later, but that all of a sudden this avalanche of one-sided propaganda just flooded the airways, and and nobody could do anything because the Fairness Law had been repealed. One of the things, when people say, well, they're talking about this issue and that issue and immigration or inflation or this or that or whatever. But if you look at the big picture, you will see that if you turn on Fox News or any of the other places, that 99% of what they're saying is strictly attacking Democrats in the most vicious way. Just making up all kinds of ridiculous things about Democrats. And And that's kind of what their goal is. The goal is to just build up all this hatred and animosity and fear of Democrats. It's I don't even understand it. I mean, some of the things that were in this campaign, let me read them off. They believed in this one, a lot of people heard about, that Hillary Clinton ran some kind of child sex ring, sex trafficking ring in a pizza parlor in Washington. Unbelievable. But just to prove that people believe this stuff, some guy showed up there with a gun and he demanded all the kids be released. They all looked at him and couldn't figure out what the hell he was talking about. But I mean, that people really believe this stuff, you know? And here's another one that I thought was just baloney and it's not true. But from my friend said, or one of her coworkers swore to it that this was true. And what I'm talking about is they believe that Democrats drink the blood of babies. Now you would say, like, oh, come on, you can't possibly mean that. You know, they do. They really believe that. So you can see how this is going. Another one that's kind of one of my favorites is they tell the people that the KKK, you know, the Ku Klux Klan that used to go around hanging black people and stuff like that. They're saying, well, those are a bunch of liberals. And these people believe it. They really believe that this this extreme racist group was a bunch of liberals. That's totally illogical.
It's amazing what we can put out there, or even the media can put out there, and then people jump on top of it. I just do want to say, when we talked about the Fairness Act, that was a game changer because cable TV started growing, and it's not governed by the FCC. So that's where the gate flew open. You know, CNN, Fox News, cable. It was different when it was broadcast media. This is over cable, and the rules don't apply. That's why you can see nudity at night on, you know, Netflix, but you would not see that on, let's say, ABC TV. So just want to interject here that helped fuel that what you talked about.
No, you're absolutely right. And so I was thinking, well, why doesn't somebody in Congress come up with some laws or whatever to address that issue? And in fact, they did. There were some proposals not too long ago, a couple of years ago, to pretty much reinstate the fairness thing. And it got, the issue came up for vote and all that stuff. Of course, it didn't pass. But the point is, you're right. And people are aware that's a bad situation.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it. And I've been a broadcaster literally since I was a teenager. You're reaching so much media by way of streaming and cable, but there's no restrictions on it. The only ones, the restrictions are on whatever is broadcast. And what is broadcast? People don't even look at, you know, what is being, except for radio. You listen to the radio. Of course, you can listen to the stream of the radio, but traditional TV, you're never watching it off of the actual feed, but it's still, those broadcast facilities are federally licensed. So that's where that came into play.
Yeah, no, you're right. Let me read just a couple quotes. I'm not gonna drag this out, but just to give you a flavor of what the kind of stuff we're dealing with. This is a direct quote out of a right-wing publication. You won't believe it. Democrats hate children. Not only do they hate them, but they also enjoy, support, and promote sexually and mentally abusing and killing them. That's an actual quote about and you know, as insane as that is, people really, really believe that. They'll turn off the radio and go across the street to their neighbor and say, "Do you know what the Democrats are hating children? They're killing children." Oh, it's unbelievable. Another one here. I only got three. Here's another one. They believe, or not they. You never want to make a broad statement that 100% of anything is true. It's always partly, you know, it's some percentage of whatever.
Sure.
Anyway, here's one. Professional athletes are all, well, again, let me remove that all. Professional athletes have a Satan worshiping cult. In other words, professional athletes worshiping Satan. I don't know who they're talking about. I mean, Tom Brady or
yeah.
But they believe that. One more, okay. So, there's lots of them, but I ain't gonna read all that. They believe in a fake alien invasion of Earth. It will involve holograms of alien spaceships. It will use 5G and some kind of sonic thing done by, and this will be done by the satanic globalists to control the world, the Democrats. Now that whole story is just like, I mean, again, like everything else here, you just shake your head and say that how the hell can people believe crazy crap like that? But I'm not saying everybody, again, don't get me confused. I'm not saying everybody's like that, but I'm saying there's a very large percentage of people who really, really buy into all this stuff, like the guy who showed up at the pizza place with a gun. So return back to the original question now of Trump support. And again, let me emphasize, I'm not saying 100% are in this position, but a large percentage are of the stuff that we've just talked about. I mean, the sex rings, the drinking the blood, the hating kids, the KK, all that stuff, they don't believe, they believe some of that, all of it. But anyway, here, back to the Trump thing. A lot of these people, they sincerely believe that the only person that can save them from the dark state, whatever the heck that is Trump. The only person that can save them from this horrible fake news that they get on CBS and NBC is Trump. He's the only one that's going to save them from that fate. The only one that's going to save them from all these criminals, these drug addicts, drug dealers who are coming from Mexico. Trump's the only person that's going to save them. Again, back to the issue of the child stuff. They believe only Trump is going to stop all the left wingers from forcing their kids to be homosexuals. They think that the Democrats want to force their kids to be homosexuals. And they believe that all of these things, and I know another big one, I don't want to forget, is they believe that there are communists all over America, and only Trump is the only one who can stop this big communist takeover of America. Well, let me say that if I believed all that stuff, I'd probably vote for Trump too. But again, you see the pattern here? I mean, they start out, first of all, opening up the gates on the media so they can get away with anything. Second step, they start this 24/7 hate dialogue and hate campaign of Democrats. And, we talked all about it. I'm not going to go back over that. But so they start all the hate campaigning. And then after they do that, the people who have been listening to this and subject to this, they get to the point where they'll believe anything. I mean, they've such a high level of hatred and fear and animosity and all that. It's built up so much that you can come along and tell them almost anything about Democrats. Whether they, torture little rabbits, I don't care, whatever it is. They'll believe it. Because they've been conditioned over all.
Conditioned. That was the word you said it as I was thinking it. They've been conditioned.
Yeah, they've been conditioned to just really accept the most horrible things you can imagine. I have to give Republicans credit, they are so creative with coming up with this stuff. I couldn't never come up with this stuff, but how they come up with this stuff is just, I'm impressed with their creativity, not with their honesty. Anyway.
And by the way, I just want to say here, this is not about politics. We're not taking sides or anything. This is just a view of what's happened historically. But it is true. Trump has many supporters, and we're right today. We're throwing up the question mark. How is that? How is that actually happening? And that's what I do believe that you're giving us insight on.
Yeah, I think. Well, this issue needs to be understood by everybody. One of the big problems that we've mentioned in the past is that Democrats seem to be very reluctant or of rebutting against all these things. I mean, I have never heard a Democrat stand up and say, "We do not drink blood of babies." I have never. Democrats just seem to let this stuff slide, and I think they got the idea that, well, people are smarter than that. People aren't going to believe such crazy stuff like that. Well, they're wrong, and the Democrats really, really need to ratchet up their campaign offense and their to attack these things and put them, get rid of them. I mean, but the Democrats are dropping the ball. I really, I wish I was heading to DCC. I'd tell, I'd tell them what kind of things they really need to be doing. Democrats are great at running the country, absolutely great. They have almost everything we have today, from 40-hour work week to women's voting and all that on. Almost all of that is responsible by the liberals. But when it comes to campaigns, they're crazy. They don't have any idea of how to campaign. They just get up and start talking about numbers, the inflation and GDP and this, that, and whatever. But they don't get to the heart of it, and that's the feelings that people have. Elections aren't won on statistics and facts. The elections are won on feelings. And the Democrats just don't have a clue how to, fight the feelings, these hate feelings that the Republicans, the media has built up. I mean, once in a while I listen to Fox News and I just, I feel like throwing one of my cats at the TV. It's so crazy, so crazy what some of the stuff they're doing. But that's the world we're living in.
And, well, you are true. All decisions are made on emotion.
Yeah,
it's you go into the store and you're going to buy something. You're not just buying it because you need it, you want it. There's an emotion involved in that, in the process of you thinking. Same thing when it comes to voting or making a decision about how you feel about a political candidate or a platform.
Yeah. One final wrap-up point. Republicans could be presenting plans for how to reduce the healthcare costs in America, which is astronomical, but they don't. They could come up with plans to cut back on or eliminate all the massacres, the gun shootings, all the gun killings. They could come up with some plan to, arrest that, but they don't. They don't have any plans. They don't have any plans for reducing global warming. They don't have any plans for really truly improving the economy. But and even the House today, they're not presenting any bills in the House. The only bills they're presenting and talking about is attacking Democrats. And they got investigations on what's wrong, what did they can find out about the Democrats that is going to attack them more. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that, I guess.
What was if somebody would ask you, what's the one, in a sentence, the one reason why you wrote your book, what would it be?
Well, yeah, that's an excellent question. All this stuff we've been talking about, the fairness law, the issues of healthcare, all this stuff. I would just sit at home and I'm hearing all this stuff and I'm saying, well, somebody's gonna come up with the other side. I mean, if all you got was one side and you don't know what the facts are, almost nobody. I bet almost nobody knows the history of the liberals over the last 100 years or more. They don't know it. So I just said to myself that nobody's writing this book, so I have to write it. I mean, honestly, I felt so frustrated that nobody was explaining the history of liberals, the progress that's been made with liberals, and where we are today with the various fighting sides that don't even talk to each other anymore. So I just felt compelled to do it. I mean, I just felt that it had to be done. Somebody had to do it. And so I spent like 3 or 4 years just digging into all the background, all the history, all the data. I have in the book, I have actual vote counts, that are on different issues and stuff. So anyway, that's,
yeah. Well, it stands to reason why you called it the liberal record, because you're trying to set the record straight. The website is theliberalrecord.com, correct?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. And you can go there. You can also find the book on Amazon. And again, see the reviews. There's even, if you go on Amazon, there's even some examples of some of the book, even the graphs and the detailed insight, the charts, everything there. Again, all based on facts. And Marcelo, great having you on here. Really appreciate the insight. And it's amazing how we get a little heated when we talk about this stuff.
Yeah, well, I appreciate, talking to you, Steve. You're a great interviewer, and you have good intellect, good questions, and I appreciate that.
Yep. Same here. I appreciate you, and I'll look forward next time we get a chance to dig into this.
Okay, take care.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.